こんにちは。このシリーズでは日常のことを伝える英語を学びます。英国 MBA ホルダーが語る英語学習のすべてというブログを運営する私が AI を使って日常の疑問を解消するときに英語でも回答を出してもらっています。それこそが自分の日常を表現する語彙や表現というわけです。そこでノートブック LM を使って動画にしてみたのですが、それを YouTube で共有していくことにしました。最初は日本語でテーマの語彙や表現を解説し、次に英語だけの解説動画になります。それでは日本語解説で表現を一緒に学んでいきましょう。
テック環境の必須英単語、徹底解説していきます。海外動画でよく聞くあの表現、マスターしちゃいましょう。皆さん、自分の PC 環境って自然な英語でパッと説明できますか？今日で完璧になれますよ。さて、早速本題へ。まずは基本中の基本、セットアップ。作業環境そのものを指す超重要ワードです。日常会話なら、コームセットアップやワークセットアップ、それにデュアルモニターセットアップなんかが定番ですね。本格的なデスク環境といえばこれ、エクスターナルモニター、外部モニターは絶対に欠かせませんよね。そこで便利なのが、コネクト A to B。A を B につなぐって会話でめちゃくちゃ使いますよ。次のマシンの内部。デバイスの新旧を語るなら、ジェネレーション、つまり世代という言葉が必須です。M3 世代はより多くの画面に対応している。まさに世代がハードの限界を決めるんです。これが面白いところで、マシンの性能を語るときって必ずこの制限との対比になるんですよね。そこでネイティブは、The only limitation is、つまり唯一の欠点は、と自然に弱点を語ります。さて、ハードの次は実際の作業へ。YouTube でも超品質の言葉、ワークフローの登場です。私のワークフローは AI と動画編集だ。プロが日々の作業手順を語るときの大定番フレーズですね。ハイスペック機がゴリゴリこなすべき高負荷な作業、これを英語ではヘビーワークと呼びます。プロっぽく言いたいなら、ヘビータスクスやリソースインテンシブタスクスなんて言い換えもかっこいいですよ。そして最強の環境が目指すゴール。それがマルチタスキング。複数の同時進行ですね。3画面はマルチタスクに最高。画面の多さがそのまま作業の快適さに直結するわけです。さらに視野を広げましょう。Apple ファンが大好きだ。製品同士が連携するイコシステムの世界です。この魔法のような連携を支える中心的なアクションがシェア、共有することなんです。ファイルや画面、それにキーボードのシェア、これらを全部デバイス間で超実用的に共有できちゃうんです。カーソルが画面を自然に行き来する。この naturally が連携のスムーズさを物語っていますよね。そう、結局のところ一番大事なのは、このプラクティカルセットアップ、実用的な構成かどうかってことなんです。最高に合理的な環境を見たとき、ネイティブは makes a lot of sense ってよく褒めるんですよ。面白いですよね。あなたのワークフローとこのセットアップがここで完璧に結びつくわけです。さて、もし何の制限もなかったら、あなたはどんなワークフローを構築しますか？ぜひ、夢の環境、想像してみてください。
それでは英語で解説を聞いてみましょう。
Welcome to this Yasabiji Now Explainer. Today, we're building a calm, intellectual foundation to boost your professional communication. We are diving straight into practical, real-world tech English, specifically looking at the vocabulary you need to describe modern Mac Mini and MacBook Air setups. Whether you're working from home or in a busy office, having the exact right words to describe your tech is absolutely essential.
But before we begin, let me ask you this. Are you actually using natural tech English? Think about it for a second. When you describe your multi-monitor work environment to a colleague, are you relying on stiff, direct textbook translations, or are you using the natural, native-like phrases that professionals actually use in the workplace? Well, our goal today is to bridge that gap. We're going to get you sounding as natural as possible.
Here's our agenda for today. 1. Key setup vocabulary. 2. Workflow and ecosystem. 3. Natural conversation. And 4. Summary and practice. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Key setup vocabulary. Our very first word is setup. Now, you might be tempted to use words like configuration or environment, mainly because, well, that's what the dictionary says. But native speakers overwhelmingly prefer the simple word setup.
It's incredibly versatile. You'll hear phrases like home setup, work setup, or dual monitor setup all the time in everyday tech conversations.
Let's look at how this sounds in a complete sentence. Listen carefully to the pronunciation and the natural rhythm here. This setup works really well for multitasking. Try to hear how smoothly those words connect. It sounds incredibly natural. And speaking of that last word, multitasking.
Multitasking is a really crucial concept. It simply means performing multiple tasks at the exact same time. If you have 3 screens sitting on your desk, they're incredibly useful for multitasking. You should also note its related forms. You can use it as a verb, like I need to multitask, or as a noun to describe a person, like she's a great multitasker. Now, what exactly are you connecting to your computer to help you multitask? An external monitor. This is an outside display screen used to expand your workspace. A highly natural phrase you'll want to memorize here is connect A to B. For instance, you wouldn't just say you use a screen. You'd say, I connect my Mac to an external monitor. Now, what's really interesting here is the native nuance. If a colleague shows you their workspace, basic textbook English might have you saying something like, it is a good idea, but native speakers use a much more practical phrase. They say, that setup makes a lot of sense. This is exactly how natives describe a highly logical, practical setup. It shows you truly understand their reasoning. Of course, no hardware is absolutely perfect, right? When we talk about a restriction or a weak point in a device, we use the word limitation. This is the professional, objective way to discuss hardware boundaries without sounding overly negative or like you're just complaining.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we use that word in a gentle, conversational way. The only limitation is display support. Native speakers use the phrase, the only limitation is, to softly point out the single drawback of a device. It keeps the conversation positive while still stating the facts.
Section 2. Workflow and ecosystem. First up in this section is the word workflow. This refers to the sequence of your work tasks, or quite simply, how you do your job. This word sees heavy, everyday usage in tech, artificial intelligence, and YouTube circles. It sounds significantly more professional than just saying the way I work. Let's look at an example. My workflow includes AI tools and video editing. Listen to the calm, clear rhythm of that sentence. It perfectly and concisely describes a modern professional's daily tasks. It tells people exactly what your computer needs to be able to handle. Next, we have ecosystem. This is an absolute favorite and a crucial term among Apple fans. It describes how different products seamlessly connect and work together as one unified unit. It's not just about having separate devices, it's really about the connected environment they create together. Let's contrast another basic phrase. Instead of simply saying your devices work together, natives will often say they work naturally together. This emphasizes the sheer seamlessness of the ecosystem. Think about how smoothly a cursor moves from your Mac straight over to your iPad screen. They work naturally together. When we discuss how well a machine handles heavy, resource-intensive tasks, we talk about its capability. This means its overall performance, ability, or processing power. A Mac Mini, for instance, is well known for having incredible processing capability for heavy, demanding work. And our last word in this section is generation. This dictates the specific hardware version or release of your device. You'll constantly hear phrases like older generation or new generation. For example, knowing if you have the M3 generation dictates exactly how many external displays your MacBook Air has the capability to support.
Section 3. Natural conversation.
So let's see how this all comes together. Imagine a colleague says, I connected my MacBook Air to an external monitor. It handles heavy work well. Notice the very practical, conversational use of external monitor. Also look at the phrase heavy work. This is the absolute perfect native way to describe resource-intensive tasks like video editing or coding.
Then the second colleague replies, for your workflow, this setup makes a lot of sense. Apple products work as one ecosystem. Listen to that professional, supportive tone. The words workflow, makes a lot of sense, and ecosystem all flow together perfectly to sound incredibly native.
The first colleague finishes the thought with, yes, you can share one keyboard across devices. The cursor moves naturally between screens. This final sentence illustrates the share function, like sharing files or a keyboard, and perfectly demonstrates what we mean when we say devices within an ecosystem work naturally together.
Section 4. Summary and practice.
Here's your essential vocabulary review. Setup, workflow, ecosystem,
multitasking, external monitor, capability. I highly encourage you to study this list and remember the specific native nuances we discussed for each one. Replacing textbook words with these terms will instantly elevate your workplace English.
To close out our lesson today, let's read this highly native phrase aloud right now. That setup makes a lot of sense. Go ahead, say it with confidence. By practicing these natural expressions, you're perfectly prepared for your next conversation about technology. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep practicing and ask yourself, what part of your workflow will you explain in English next?
いかがでしたでしょうか。日常会話は多岐にわたるため、実はビジネスシーンよりも語彙不足により苦戦することが多いです。これからも自分の勉強を兼ねて、ノートブック LM などを用いて作った動画をこのチャンネルで共有していきます。動画に関連したテキスト記事をブログにも上げていきます。ぜひチャンネル登録をしてください。また、よかったらいいねボタンもお願いします。